Today's episode is brought to you by Agrarius, a South African investor specializing in agriculture. Agrarius founders originate from the farming community and have experienced how financial markets don't understand agricultural sector needs. They have thus fundraised from JSE investors to make money work for everyone. Agrarius offers a wide range of solutions, be it working capital, new equipment, new plantings and farm purchases. Whenever there is business potential, there is a way to make it happen. Agrarius, fair funding for agriculture. For more information about funding options, visit agrarius.co.za, a product of 274 Investment Managers. An authorized financial services provider, 31045.
Afternoon, Linda and Alistair. Linda, we know you very well. We've had you on a couple of times. And Alistair, thanks for joining us for the first time.
No problem at all. Good to be here.
Yeah, and
Great
we're
stuff.
at the International Blueberry Organization at the summit. And you guys are Team Zimbabwe. You used to that.
Okay. Yeah. Once upon a time.
So, I think, Alistair, from your side, just give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you do, and how you get to be at the summit today.
Okay, so I'm the chairman of the Horticultural Development Council for my sins at this particular stage, and I'm also the berry grower representative to the HDC. So in that capacity, that's what I'm doing here. So obviously it's my first time to one of these events. We've just signed up to be part of the IBO. Is that correct, Linda? Mm-hmm. You did the deed.
Country members, yes.
Yeah. So so from that perspective, from a berry specific but horticultural general perspective, it's good to be able to come to these sort of events and the networking, the speeches. I mean, it's so valuable, the insights from all the different countries around the world, because a lot of the time you're just speculating as to what's happening and you read reports and whatnot, but it's really good to come to these sort of events, and there's some really, really big players in the industry, and it's really good to be able to connect.
Yeah, those connections are the important part, because you never know, in 6 months' time you can pick up a phone and phone someone that you never had the connection to. So I think one of my main questions is, how did blueberries end up in Zim? What happened that the first bushes were planted in Zim and sparked this massive growth that you guys have had?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, that. And the chairman of the South African Berry Association, he had that chronology, and that's something that we need to do. I looked at Linda and both thinking the same thing, going like, we haven't done that yet. We need to build that chronology, because it's happened so quickly, and it's been a bit frenetic that we haven't gone back to square one and gone, well, hold on, geez, how did this start? So I think there's always been the wild side of things up in the highlands of Nyanga, and that there's been the sort of wild bushes, and people have grown them as a hobby type thing.
Okay.
The first commercial trials in bushes, I think, were brought in around about 2014, 2015.
So we're talking a decade.
Yeah, so it's
Wow.
it's really, and then those were experimented with, which would be the best for which climatic zones, et cetera, et cetera. So, and that sort of snowballed. So the pioneers did it sort of in the Marandera area, and from my side, I mean, mine was 2017, 18. I looked at it just. It was sort of, I'd heard people talking about it, and I'm one of those that, you can look at a tobacco or wheat or maize or one of those cash flows, and then you look blueberries, and it just sounded interesting. Let's put in a few hectares and see what happens, and then suddenly just snowball from there, because you need scale, you need certain quantums, and we've it's been an interesting journey for everybody. Growing blueberries is technical and difficult at the best of times, but doing it in Zimbabwe with the economics and politics and all that sort of thing is quite something. So, Zimbabwe blacklisted. No one wants to lend money there, so we're borrowing from commercial banks and trying to understand how the cash flows worked. And when you have to order a bush that takes 18 months to order, and you're borrowing 3-year money, go figure how you're going to pay that back.
Yes.
So we've had to be very entrepreneurial and negotiate with the banks and run backwards and forwards, and because the funding hasn't been there. So guys have really, that age-old cliche, made a plan to get it to where it is now. And obviously, when we first started, there was no such thing as a jumbo berry and a super jumbo. I mean, 8mm was accepted in our first harvest. Now people, that's not even close to being accepted. And I think things have changed so fast. But one thing that is very apparent now is that which we didn't know, and we didn't plant it because we had the unique marketing window, but we sort of left with the only window left in the world where nobody can sort of compete with us because of the latitude. So it's either far north Queensland or sort of Argentina, and they're on a downward spiral. So it's there's opportunity, huge opportunity, and it'll be interesting to see how the next 3 years pans out, 3 to 5 years, because it's all very well having a country that we have this opportunity, but how's it going to pan out? Who's going to come in there and invest? And there's still very people are cautious about Zimbabwe and what's going to happen there, and because of the past, and quite rightly so. But there's this opportunity. So what do? Do you throw a bit of caution to the wind? Do you some of the DFIs sort of sign off and try and get some guarantees in place and try and place the money in Zim to really grow this? Because we've probably got 750 hectares in the ground at the moment, and we could go to 5,000, 7,000. I don't know. With I know we'll probably talk about, but with China market opening up, India. I mean, we haven't sent a berry to China or India. I mean, that's 2-3 billion people. We haven't sent a berry there. So it's exciting with what could be, with the what could grow into. But it'll be interesting to see how that's going to pan out and how quickly we can take advantage of what the opportunity.
Wow.
Yes. After all of that, my response is also, wow. Because, if you look from where you are at present, just look back a little. I always think it's interesting to look back and see where you've come from. Where you've come from, where Zimbabwe's international reputation, with what things that happened and what happened, and what you're still struggling with the finances and the way the way things are looking with your currency, and it's incredibly admirable that you have succeeded as well as you have with the challenges that you face. And it says something about tenacity, and it says something about people that look for see the opportunity, and as you say, make a plan, make it happen, and that. There's such a huge opportunity. We were just chatting to somebody who was saying that Southern Africa has an incredible flavor profile. Thanks, Dewald. A fantastic flavor profile compared to many of the other countries producing in the Southern Hemisphere. And we asked specifically, and he said, there's just something about Southern Africa. And if you guys have got the window, and I mean, you're standing literally where, from now to here has already been a bit of a miracle to pull it together, as you've explained, and now looking forward, it's both probably very exciting and terrifying at the same time.
It is. It's very daunting because it's not only you're excited about progress and scaling up and what that brings, but scaling up brings challenges as well, and not only from your own personal scale up of your farm and how you do that and what's needed to do it successfully. And everyone talks about succeeding at scale. It's a different ballgame from your, if you want to go from your 20, 30 hectare farm to your 150 hectare farm, it's a massive shift in what you need to plan for, people that you need, how you need to deal with things. But also as a country as a whole, if it does take off, everyone has to play their part, from government to logistics to labor to water to rights to there's a whole myriad of things that need to come together to assist with the scale up. And if something falls away, it's a chink in the chain that makes it more difficult to get things done. And when you put that on top of already trying to entice people to invest in a jurisdiction that they don't want to invest in, that they see as high risk, it's doubly difficult. So, we go around and try and convince people, hey, you need to invest. This is the opportunity. And the feedback we're getting, you don't have to tell us. I mean, we know about some, we know the opportunity, we know that it exists. So, but the country risk is real for people when you're asking them for not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but millions of dollars. And when the history is there, and they're going, what guarantees in place? Yes, we see the opportunity, and that's why a lot of investment has been done outside of Zim. So even the DFIs have been investing in sort of Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique, and bypassing Zim. Just no approval from their credit committees to invest in Zim. But we're seeing that changing, and we're seeing a few DFIs have now sort of approved the investment destination of Zimbabwe, approved blueberry as a crop to invest in. So we're seeing some traction insofar as that is concerned, and we just hope that we can get the first investments over the line. If we can do that, and we can get policy, really good policy, sort of changed or brought into effect in Zimbabwe to assist with this opportunity and this scale up, then the sky's the limit. But I'm just hoping that it all comes together.
It all lines up. Yeah.
Yes, it's quite something. It's when you say all of this, I'm kind of silenced because you don't know what to say next, because it's this huge conundrum. There's opportunity, but then people are terrified to invest. So it's like who make the first move, and where will it go, and how things will unfold. I mean, Zimbabwe has got such beautiful agricultural soil, and everything other than the politics is just perfect. And also your time, when your window, as you were saying, it's all of that. And as I said, everyone knows that it's about dialogue now, and where there's a will, there's a way. It's such a cliche, but it's so true. Is that if there's no will, there's no political will, economic will, things stagnate. You don't really get things done. Whereas if there's a will, and I just think if there's a real will from an investor, they'll get on a plane. And that's where Linda comes in, and Horticultural Development Council, phone up and say, we want to come, please get us into these offices. We want to go and see the Minister of Lands. We want to go and see the Minister of Finance. We want to come and invest. Help us. We want to go and see ZEDA, which is the Zimbabwe Investment Development Authority. Let's get around a table, and you tell us as investors what you want. We'll tell the people that make the decisions. Don't tell, we know what's required. But it just adds a bit of weight to what needs to happen if they can come and we can all sit around a table, and the DFI is saying, guys, this is what we need. And if you can clear the decks, as it were, and change this for us, we've got the money. And if the government can go back and go, that's excellent. Okay, what can we do here? How can we assist? And I think that's what countries like Rwanda did, from being a place that nobody wanted to go to. Right, we need investment. What are we going to do? And this is how we're going to do it. And suddenly you see what happens when sort of you can get clear and concise and good policy going. People come. People will invest. People like that sort of thing. And how's it going? Are you starting to get those people coming to you and saying this? Do you see a trend? Is there a shift?
Definitely there is. And also, just to add on to what Alistair was saying previously, government is getting around the table with us, certainly wanting to change the narrative of the investment environment in Zimbabwe. So I think this year we've had much more traction in terms of looking at fiscal policy, looking at the regulatory environment, what is stopping, what are the investors fearing, and what can we shift. At the beginning of the year, we had a monetary policy change that we sort of lumbered with, which is our 30% retention. But it's to say, okay, we understand that we need our own currency in Zimbabwe. We can't carry on using the US dollar forever. But how do we do it so that it causes the least disruption and supports the growth that we have planned? And what are the other, if we're keeping the retention, what else can we look at? For example, the ease and cost of doing business, and looking at the fiscal policy. So we actually have that on the table at the moment with our Ministry of Finance. So fingers crossed that we'll have something positive out of that. And just change the narrative on Zimbabwe. It has been tricky, and we have tried to do our own currency before, and I think because we haven't succeeded the 5 previous times that we tried this, of course everybody is nervous about it, especially us. So how do we overcome that? Because there's got to be a step change if we want to grow, and government needs the export earnings that blueberry brings. So it is a key focus of theirs, and we're quite positive that this year we
Do you
will
see quite a marked shift in their attitude towards the horticultural sector?
Yes, definitely.
Fantastic to hear.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we've known each other for quite a while, and I follow what HCC does very closely, and I see a lot of good news stories going out.
Yeah.
It's refreshing to see, and I think, and we've discussed it a couple of times, the people are curious about them. They
very much so. Yeah.
They want. As soon as you mention Zimbabwe, everybody's
What's happening there?
Yeah, you can see the interest peak immediately, and because I've been there and I get around on the ground here. If you actually go and you show them what there is, like photos I've still got on my phone and everything, it's like you can hear the joy hit the floor, like that.
I think also people don't realize the scale that we farm in Zimbabwe as well. I know you certainly had your eyes opened the first time you came to Dewald. I remember that. And so it's getting the word out there that it's a serious, we've always, in the conversations that we've had, said that Zimbabwe doesn't have a market problem. We don't have a problem getting the product that we produce into the market, and the demand is there. What we have is a production problem. We need more production to meet that demand. The interest is coming, and we'll change the investment narrative as well as we go along. And as we, it's the ability for our farmers to repay. And I think sitting around the table with government and saying, this is how this policy affects us, and how this would make it unable for us to repay, because that's all about reputation. And that's the hardest thing to get back once it's gone.
You're so right. Because that's exactly that's at the base of our whole conversation here, is re-establishing trust for investment. Because of
how
the
did
reputation of the
Real
place.
Milan say? Investment is a coward. It doesn't like to go where there's it doesn't stick around for long, and it doesn't like to go where there's a challenge.
It's absolutely
Goes
it's
where it's
absolutely
comfortable.
true. Yeah. So tell us about China. It's exciting.
China, very exciting. So glad that it's done. It was like giving birth to a child. So it was many years and fights in the pipeline to get there. The protocol has been signed, and we are preparing to send our first fruit in the next season. We do have a few requirements to get through first, obviously the first inspections and that sort of thing. But we've been preparing our farmers for about a year now in the hope that it was coming. So we're quite confident that they'll meet the compliance requirements, no problem. It's very similar to EU, and EU is our common market. So they're used to audits, they're used to having people crawling around, looking in and under and all over. So, I think very positive. Yeah.
That's so exciting for you, because that's opening up the largest market in the world, and maybe that will also, shore up confidence for investors.
Absolutely.
So, for the people that don't know about the blueberry industry in Zimbabwe, how has it grown? Like in South Africa, if you drive around, you see net house, there's probably blueberries inside. So I know that a lot of bushes are planted out in the open. What do you guys do different there than what we do in South Africa?
We do better.
Say again?
I'm joking.
It's everybody's own preference. It depends on your climatic conditions. I think, here in Western Cape with the high winds, you need covering. Otherwise, you wouldn't have any pots left if they were done in pots.
Yeah.
So there's pot plantings, which is with substrate. There's the soil planting. Some people prefer poly. There's shade netting. There's out in the open for a variety of different reasons. I think, the genetics are moving so quickly, genetic development, I should say. So older genetics needed, hectic cross-pollination, needed a lot of bees. Newer genetics don't need so many bees. But those that were the older genetics that needed a lot of bees, if you had them under tunnel or under shade, the bees don't like it.
It's a problem
so
as well.
you struggle with your pollination. So those were best grown outdoors. But a lot of it, to be honest, boils down to budget, because doing it in the soil open, might cost you, I talk in dollars, $70,000 a hectare, whereas under poly and done in a better spec way is $200,000 a hectare. And some genetics behave better under poly than they do under shade than they do in the open. So I think everybody has to find their own budget, what they want to spend, return, do their own maths, pick their own genetics. I mean, we heard today the guys talking about the genetic you pick for your actual jurisdiction is so critical. And then once you've done that, to make sure that you've got the best agronomy support, the best marketing support, that's so important, because guys that try and do it without any of that support and think their general farming background will stand them in good stead. Yes, it's a good base, but there's so many technical elements that are needed. And I think when the world has been short, we heard today about, the honeymoon's over. Now you've got to grow it well. You've got to make sure that you're prepared for some pricing that does come down a little bit. That means you need the yield, you need the quality in order to make money. All those things are going to come into play now. So your marketing and who you partner from a marketing perspective is critical as well, and which markets they're selling to. And that's the beauty about Zim, is that we've got probably the longest harvesting window when you talk about any jurisdiction, because we sometimes start middle of March and finish end of October. Sure. So it's very, very long marketing window. But that early fruit, you guys in South Africa and all the woolies and Pick and Pays, that's all Zimbabwean fruit, because there's no other production in South Africa at that stage. So we can sell all our early fruit into South Africa at really good pricing. And then once, in sort of middle of May, we send to Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, to the Far East, all our jumbo fruit. And that maintains air freight until we start sending to Europe, sort of middle of July type scenario. So
I was going to ask about the air freight scenario, because Zim is a landlocked country. What percentage of your fruit is still air freighted now?
It's about 50-50 still, because we do quite a big volume early on. Look, most of it goes to the Far East. We've got Qatar and Emirates that fly in, so we use belly space there. If there is pressure on that space, we'll truck to Joburg and fly it out of Joburg, same airlines.
Okay.
And then for our sea freight at the moment, nearly everything goes through Cape Town. That's so we truck it to Cape Town and ship it from there. But as we get to scale, there's more and more options available. Everyone always asks me, what about Beira? What about Maputo? What about Walvis Bay? Yeah, all of those are options, but they need to invest in the cold chain there. They need to build cold chains, And so when you have meetings and you're saying build cold rooms, and they're saying, well, then bring 500 containers, and then it's worth the investment. We don't have the scale to do that, so we're going, okay, and so when scale, at the moment we feel a bit like, to use African sort of parlances, like the wild dogs. We're on the carcass of Zimbabwe at the moment. We're not feeding, but we find our gaps. But as soon as we can get scale, we'll be able to.
That's a very good analogy.
Have better conversations, or more robust conversations with suppliers, with marketeers, with logistics people, because at the moment we get dictated to. And as we build scale, we'll be able to do a bit of dictating and not have to just accept what we're given. So, but that again, it's not just a Zimbabwe problem. That's just the smaller you are. That's just how it is.
So that unique window that you guys are in, the markets are still dictating to you, even though you are the only people that's got berries in that time.
Yeah. And if there's, there's the airlines have very sophisticated software, and if we've got a lot of product, if it's overloaded, whatever, they'll say that's the new price. Otherwise, come fetch it off the tarmac. Pay the price, and luckily for us, we've got some really good logistics partners. So it's not my game. I'm a grower, but the logistics guys in Zim do a really good job at Europort, and we're with a company called Zimflex FX Logistics. We've got a really, really good sort of logistics chain, but it's sort of it's at 750 hectares, maybe 1,000 hectares. But then after that, that's part of the scale I'm talking about. Then what happens? Because now you need to build a whole new facility. It's not big enough anymore. And then there's not enough airplanes that come in. Then there's not enough trucks. All of those things need to be planned out. And it's not just from a grower perspective. We've got to concentrate on our hectares. But you need the logistics people to go, not just wake up and you go to them, say, I've got an extra 500 tons this year. They go, what? We hadn't planned for that.
The bottleneck problem is something that you need to be proactive about and sort out before you're stuck with this fruit that can't go anywhere because no one did the planning.
I've always, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I've always said one of Zim's the best things about your air freight situation is because your fruit get there in the very best quality it could get.
Yes.
It doesn't have to go through a port where it sits in a container for a couple of weeks. It gets there super fresh, and I think that has helped Zim incredibly.
We've become renowned for our premium quality berries. It's a big thing. I mean, most countries, if you were a Tesco or an M&S, Zimbabwe's like a swear word. So when it says product of Zimbabwe, I'd rather just like scratch it out and say these are nice blueberries. But they're actually wanting that on there because customers are actually asking, saying,
oh wow.
Instead of sea freighted varieties, whatever, look how fresh this is. This is from Zimbabwe, bigger, better, sweeter type scenario. So it's gained a lot of traction and reputation for being a premium quality berry growing destination. That's what we are. We don't. People ask me, what do you do with your seconds and that? We don't have a secondary market. We sell a bit locally. We send a bit down here for freezing. But generally, it's premium berries. The rest, if we didn't have the freezing option, whatever, we'd give it to the bird park or to the animals or whatever. There's no secondary market. We don't grade them first grade, second grade, third grade. We just premium berries. The margin or the premium price is in the sizing, and that's where, because of our sort of winters where the berries can hang. I mean, some of our varietals, we can hang berries for 18 days, 20 days. And that allows them just to mature slowly. So that builds up the bricks, builds up the size, the turgidity. It just makes it a much better berry, a much better tasting berry.
I saw a photo on LinkedIn, I think it was earlier this year. It was, I can't remember who it was, where they put the blueberry on top of the Apple Watch.
Yes.
And it was the same size as the watch.
Wow.
So this is also, sorry to interrupt.
No,
but
please.
one of the things that industry is working on is telling our story better, because Zim really has a brand Zimbabwe story that needs to be told. And I think in the past, the story has been told for us. And I think it's time for Zim to start telling its own story. So we're also looking at how we can do that and stop our Zimbabwean producers from having to take a kind of second-hand pricing because Zim is seen as, it's from Zimbabwe, it's a lower quality. We've gone beyond that now. So we really need to get that out there, as well as telling the investment story as well.
So
What's very interesting for me is listening to what you're saying and knowing the past and knowing where Zimbabwe has been and where it's coming from now. I mean, the Horticultural Development Council has been formed because of horticulture, and it sounds to me like the berries are really kind of leading the way. So it sounds to me like the berry industry is introducing a new narrative about Zimbabwe to the rest of the world, actually. And if somebody said to you 10 or 15 years ago this would happen, you probably would never have imagined this.
Yeah, I think we do have a long history of horticulture.
Yes.
I mean, I think our oldest industry is our tea industry, 120 years old.
and flowers.
And flowers, 40 years old. But blueberries are the newest and the fastest growing of the subsectors. And of course, there's a lot of hype around blueberries because it's a new industry. We're still finding stuff out. We're still finding out the health benefits. And how does that impact the local community? Blueberries is viewed so much as an export crop, but there is local benefit to it as well. And again, that's another story that needs to be told in terms of health benefit, as well as, everybody just thinks, well, foreign currency coming into Zim, we need it. And of course we do. But there are a lot of other benefits that we can. Yeah, so unfortunately our flowers have taken a bit of a quite a nosedive. And blueberries, thankfully, has taken up the gap. But working hard again, if we can get our policy environment right, who's to say that flowers won't come back in a big way? As Alistair mentioned before, we have that DNA, that agricultural DNA,
Yes.
and we've done it before. So why not? Why not do it
There's
again?
a history, the avos, max,
Yes.
citrus. There's all of that there, and all of it needs to grow,
Yes.
and can grow,
And grow very
but
well.
But the fastest growing one, the crop to take most advantage of at this stage because of world demand and because of the unique marketing window is the blueberry. So that's the focus, but it is capital intensive, and it requires a lot of money to get up to scale quickly. And you just need to look at what Peru did, and that's whenever I talk to people, and I actually got the presentation given to me by Rabobank that came out to Zim, and they said, look at this Peru had, as you heard today in the speeches, Peru were, when they were doing this 10 years ago, they weren't even not even forecast, nothing, like not even there. And that's exactly, they were on like 1,000 hectares or 700 hectares, much similar to Zim. And within 6 years, they were at 18,000 hectares. And that's because government got there and they just said, what do you guys want? And how they explained in this, they just got out the way of themselves and said, what do you guys, you need water there, what do you, cleared people out here? And even subsidized ships, even if they were 3/4 full, paid the balance so they could get cracking and wouldn't have to jeopardize the fruit quality, et cetera, et cetera. So, as I said, where there's a will, there's a way, and that's that's the example of what to the detriment of Western Cape, because it's in the same production window. So everyone saw Western Cape as that's why everyone's set up here. You see all the downstream and upstream industries. Everyone moved here, all the nurseries, because this is where they thought the expansion would be in the Western Cape. But because of Peru, that's no longer the case. So it's more northern South Africa and Zim, where
Yes,
everybody's looking.
we are seeing that
in Namibia as
in
well.
Namibia
And
and
Namibia,
northern parts of like Limpopo and
Correct,
places
from
like that.
Mpumalanga, Brits,
So
all of
it-
that, yeah.
I
And
would
that's-
never have thought. I thought it was too hot.
No, and that's
Well,
again,
you
these
see.
newer varietals can handle that. But in some of those areas, I mean, there's severe frost issues
Yes.
that they have to
Yeah, but you can mitigate
counter.
those things. There are things for that at the moment.
Well, yeah,
Exactly.
they'll find a way.
Yes.
But it's so it's I think the bottom line is with Zimbabwe is that it's everyone talks about it as the breadbasket of Southern Africa,
Yes.
and everyone associates it with
Yes.
tobacco or maize, wheat. But the horticulture is always been there. They've got some
Yes.
terrific growing areas for citrus and for the bananas and for the max and avos and tea. So there's some really big estates, good estates. There's and that needs to all grow. Linda talked about it. We need production. We've got a production deficit in Zimbabwe. The market requires in the different marketing windows requires more product in all of those subsectors. But blueberry at the moment, as I said, is the one that's required the most. I mean, we could probably literally sell our crop 10 times over.
Wow.
And that's where and that's
It's a very good problem to have.
Be
so
nice.
it's good. And I always say to people, yes, it's capital intensive and all that, and there's issues, but everyone else sets up a business or goes into business, and the one thing is it's normally into a crowded space. Who's going to market best, and if you're playing with, there's lots of competition. Whereas Zim, we were very clear as growers early on, is that when the breeders came in, we were signing big, thick NDAs, and you can't talk to each other.
Yes.
And we said, no, that's not acceptable to us, because this is a wider industry. Why? You can't tell me because I grow for Costa and you grow for Berry World that we can't talk to each other.
Exactly
And
the
if
same
I,
thing.
I must just look by while you fail, or you look by while I fail when you've got the answer to the problem on my farm. And we quickly said, no, we're going to collaborate. And we do that to this day, that everybody comes for a grow day, no matter who you grow for, and we discuss blueberry things, blueberry industry things. If I wanted to go to a Berry World farm, if I want to go to a United farm, everyone's open book and willing to learn. And it's really nice to be part of a community like that, where you're collaborating and you're building for the good of the industry and the country as a whole.
Have you seen other people in other parts of the horticulture diversifying into blueberry? Maybe somebody's got citrus or avos or nuts, putting a blueberry extension on to diversify their operation?
Yeah, definitely. In addition to Not pulling out what they already
No,
have, for example.
in addition.
But yeah, in addition to diversifying. Yeah.
Not actually horticulture, tobacco. There's
Some
one,
of the
because
tobacco
tobacco, if you've
guys,
got
yeah.
labour, you talk about seasonal labour, but if you grow tobacco, is that is the blueberries is counter season to tobacco. So you would do all your reaping sort of December, January, February, maybe a bit into March, and then you would go straight into blueberries. So you could keep your labour. It wouldn't become seasonal anymore. You'd have something for them to do all year
that's
round.
ideal. If you can keep your labour busy all year round.
Problem is that tobacco also is technical, takes time. Everyone thinks that blueberries, when you prune them, what you just like leave them. That's the most critical part, is the prune and how you bring them to fruition. So you can't just prune them and walk away and say, I'll see you when you've got fruit on you. It's critical. You got to maintain. You got to be there. So to do too many different things is dangerous with blueberries. They require a lot of. You need to pay attention. So to have a too diverse portfolio might it might stress you more than it makes you money.
So after everything you've said now, you said to us you heard people talking about this and you decided you're going to plant a couple of bushes of blueberry. So what have you ever come to a point and says, I regret my choice? Or have you just said, this is the best investment I've ever made in my...
Or both.
There's been a lot of sleep.
On the same day.
No, for me, it's always... You always get bogged down in the day-to-day nitty-gritties and... I'm late paying the bank back, and let me go and see them tomorrow. I mean, those are everyday issues that people go through on a daily basis when you're a business owner or building a business. It is what it is. But I always look at the bigger picture, and I think that's the key to all of this. What is the end game? What's the goal here? What could be? And when I see where blueberries are going to go, I mean, not could be, where the ceiling is. It's just you wake up every day going, I'm part of this. I'm on this boat now, and it's going to be a crazy ride. But
and you never knew that when you planted the first ones.
We didn't. I mean, this was just going to be a few hectares. We had some land. Let's try this, and it looks a good thing. I mean, the return's good, the cash flows look good, but we had no idea about the technicalities and that. And so we've and now I look at the IP that we built. Employing people. We've built our own farm management systems. We've trained people up that were just normal tobacco foremen or worked as a tractor driver on a farm. Now they walk around, they sort of know what to do insofar as agronomy is concerned. I mean, all our stuff is computerized irrigation, and with the upskilling that we've done to the community and what we've been able to give back to the community, looking after the school. We pay for all our workers' kids to go to school, built a creche. With sort of high investment but potentially high return crops, you can do so much more tangible good work as opposed to just ticking boxes of a few bits and pieces in your community. And I'm a firm believer is that if the community is employed, if they're occupied, then it equals less crime. It equals a more vibrant and robust community. And that's what I want to build, is that you don't see people sitting around. So, when I drive past the housing, I don't want to see people sitting there, because that means that, hold on, what are they doing? And you drive past, and if it's empty or there's a few people doing some washing or whatever the case may be, great. But the rest are working. They engaged, they're working, and there's a purpose to what you're doing. So I think that's a big thing with and everyone talks about ticking the CSR box, but it's real in Zim that what you can accomplish with and again with scale, you can accomplish a lot more. You're not just fixing the windows in the classroom. You're actually building new classrooms when you can put put those hectares in. So there's so much tangible good stuff that's a byproduct of if we get blueberries right, and it looks like we are in that sort of on that path. So hopefully we can get the investment. Hopefully we can get the policy, because the market's there. As I said, it's waiting for us to take advantage of us. We've got to take it.
Wow, it's incredible. You know what you said earlier about Zimbabwe's story has been told for Zimbabwe. You need Zimbabwe. You guys need to tell the story. You need to proactively go and tell the world that this is happening in Zimbabwe, because
that's what we're doing now.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's an absolute pleasure. But what I'm saying is also visuals, seeing people,
Definitely.
seeing is believing. And what you're talking about, it would be incredible to showcase it more. And the very best of luck with changing perceptions and getting the investment in, and because what you're telling us is phenomenal. So good to hear.
Thank
The
you.
good news that
Yes.
we always say bad news spreads itself and good news needs a lot
Needs
of help.
It does. Yeah.
Yes.
It really does.
And Zim needs all that help.
Yes.
We sure do. And look, we're starting to get it. And
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, as I said, we're more in control of our own destiny than we've ever been, and we need to embrace that and shape it how we want to shape it.
For sure. Well, good luck with that. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Because we kind of
A message to the people that's
Yes.
curious about Zim.
yes.
Get on a plane, come have a look.
Yeah. Come and see us.
I mean, you can go on the website, Horticultural Development Council, if that's your game. Come, I mean,
Follow
some of the
us
most
on
magnificent
LinkedIn.
places to visit. Because it's such a jurisdiction that nobody wants to go to. I mean, you could go to a game park and, like, you're the only person there. Or, I see pictures of the Kruger, when there's like 20 cars around a kill. In Zimbabwe, you're the only one there because, no one's visiting. So it's a bit of a paradox that not many people come there. And it's a world of wonders. It really is.
It's
Certainly.
it's the people of Zimbabwe are so friendly. It is safe. It is. Every time I've been there with you guys, it's just been incredible. It's awesome.
I've only been to Zimbabwe briefly a very long time ago. And as somebody living in the neighboring country, you hear the extremes.
Yeah.
You know the history, which I'm not going to delve into because I think everybody does. And then
Yeah.
you hear about the incredibly beautiful places, the incredibly friendly
Yes.
people, the hospitable people, the beautiful agriculture, and the varied landscape. And you've got an incredible story to tell, so it's lovely to have you here. The reason Dewald is looking in a book is because we have a tradition, and when we are like at the end of the podcast, we have a question left for us for the next guests, which is you.
I think we've asked you one previously.
By a previous person.
We never got one from
And
you.
it's a completely random question.
you do.
So let's have a little bit of fun. Let's see what Dewald
Okay,
has found for us today.
this is nothing to do with fruit. You could make it about fruit if you really want to. What has recently made you smile?
Wow.
Yes, it's
We're both looking at China Protocol.
that's a good one. It's a good answer.
Yeah, from a work perspective.
It doesn't have to be work perspective.
Anything?
What has recently made me smile?
Yeah. Go, Al.
That's such a random question. You're thinking, how do you answer? In what context?
In any context. Maybe you saw something when you got off the plane. Maybe before you left home. Maybe.
Something funny that happened on the farm.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll keep it more related to what we're doing. Is I think it was today in the conference where in previous gatherings, Zimbabwe would not have been. You talk about Peru and 10 years ago not being mentioned. No, I mean nobody there from the moment the main guy, I forget his name, the president of the
Mario.
IPO, and he goes and he's talking about Zimbabwe, and then the Peru guy's talking about Zimbabwe, and it's just sort of it was mentioned more than.
What you thought it was going to be.
Being
More than
on
any
the
other
map,
country or
yeah,
jurisdiction,
exactly.
So you are being included
and I think
now.
you smile to yourself
Yes.
and go, the hard work is starting to pay off.
Pat on the shoulder.
And people are starting to recognise that we could become serious players. That there's we've got a seat at the table, and I suppose a little smile of yes, so far so good, but the journey is still ahead. But it was nice for me to come to this and have your peers in industry walking in the corridors, networking, talking, that they're actually treating you as an equal, not as a pariah nation like Zimbabwe are used to being treated.
Exactly.
And I suppose that if you want to wry smile, you're going. We're getting some recognition here for what we've been
Love
doing
it.
and what we need to achieve. So
Well done.
yeah.
Well done.
Yes.
And
Very well done.
I know all of you are doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes that nobody get to see. And from a quote unquote competition nation, well done.
Thank you.
And thanks for what you're doing.
Yes. And thanks for coming to chat to us, and best of luck down the road.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
so much.